Hand it over, that thing, your dark soul.
Wait. What was this game called again? Ah, crap. We're gonna need a reshoot.
Hand it over, that thing, your
Black Soul. Perfect. I can't even tell the difference. What's up, guys? You're here with CozierLobster for the review of Black Souls, which, if it isn't obvious from the title of the game and my stupid skit at the beginning, is heavily inspired by the Dark Souls series of games. This somehow combines the gameplay of a turn-based RPG with the frameworks of a Soul-like, which I never thought of combining both of those aspects together, but they pulled it off very nicely. All this is set in your typical Souls-like setting, a dystopian world that you're just thrown into where shit's already hit the fan and you're just expected to struggle against it and survive. A world where your favorite fairy tales have been twisted and corrupted by a weird fog that now plagues the land, stripping the souls from the living and twisting their bodies and mind into abhorrent monsters. You play as an undead, and as an undead you don't really have a soul to take, so you're just kind of a vessel that holds souls. Also, you can never really stay dead, you're just kind of stuck in an infinite loop of death and rebirth. As it's up to you to figure out the story of what has happened to these lands, and decide whether or not you want to be a saint, or become just as much of a monster as of those who have been corrupted. Like with any good Souls game, you'll start off with the character creation, with Alice from Wonderland. Okay, maybe not with the Alice part, but you'll be picking from 3 different types of classes: a knight, a thief, or a sorcerer. Each giving you different starting weapons, a skill or 2 that fits with the class, but in my opinion it doesn't really matter which one you choose because it mainly just affects your early game. You don't need skill points to use items like in other Souls games, to wield like a weapon or something, and certain items also allow you to custom tailor your guy's stats anyways. You'll also choose your name and a starting item, and after a few cryptic words stating that you're the protagonist of the story, well, obviously, you'll watch Alice get turned into paste, and the title card drops. You wake up from that dream at a jail cell at Fort Ivern. You're broken out by a holy knight named Janae, who has tracked down the source of this fog to just past this fort at Castle of the Lost Empire. And she is here to stop it, and ask if you would be willing to help her just before both of you get burned to death, no more than a few minutes after breaking out. This is the game's first difficulty boss check. Let's see. Waking up in a crappy area. Check. First boss makes me his own hole. Check. Very confused at what the hell's going on. Check. Yep, this is the experience I know and love. After the intro, you're thrown into this game's Firelink Shrine, that being the Holy Forest. Here's the main hub that you'll interact with all the other NPCs that you'll meet along your journey, and the first thing you will see by interacting with anyone is either the option to murder them and oh, I can't show that option. Which I'll rip the band-aid off early. If you can't stomach sexual violence in video games, I suggest that you don't play this. The game doesn't shy away from this sort of violence at all. The whole theme of the game is that it's a dark, brutal world, and they use these elements to emphasize this. You'll find everything from prostitutes being used and thrown aside to demons trying to fulfill their lust by finding any kind of hole to fill. To even you yourself are given the opportunity to participate in this kind of madness. And that's the angle they chose to take to emphasize this corruption. Like in Dark Souls where you have the option to try and help or hurt other people, so does this game try to replicate that by allowing you to commit these kind of acts yourself. And choosing or not choosing to participate does impact the story and the world of the game. Now, does the game implement this well? In my opinion, it's It feels like it's more there for shock value more than anything, at least for the main protagonist. Because on one hand, the majority of the people that you can do this option to are people that can become your party members, and all of them do get their own special ending, which you will lock yourself out of if you do this option. And finding out more information about them is kind of hard when you just throw them into your personal dungeon after you do the act, which the game gives you and you can come back to revisit anytime you want to be a repeat offender. So there are consequences for your actions, but I guess I just wanted more of a reason behind these acts besides it just being a cardinal act and the little fairy at the start telling you to go wild because it's your story. But I think that is the whole point to it. This is your story to play out, so you can do whatever you want. You can either be a saint or an affront to God. So my point is probably just moot. There is a kind of morality system to the game to go along with this, where at any time you do these kind of acts, you'll cure sins, which if they build up high enough, you will be hunted down by a group called the Black Trial. which they're supposed to be a very high level enemy that is hard to take down, but once you get to late game, they're kind of a joke. Also, another reason I mentioned this at the beginning is that if you don't know, if you buy this game off of Steam, these scenes do not come with the game. And from my experience with Demon Roots, I'm going to assume that a lot of this game has been cut out to make sure that none of those type of scenes have made it into the game, which means probably main story elements have been cut off too. So if you want the whole experience, you just need to download the patch from Otaku Plan's website and install the patch after you run the game at least once. Now with that out of the way, back into where we last left off. After you arrive at the Holy Forest and meet up with a fairy named Leaf, that was a weird Freudian slip. She is a cheeky fairy assistant that follows you throughout the game and helps you during fights and gives you general area information. You are free to explore and find out what is waiting for you beyond the forest. You are kind of given a vague task of working your way back to the fort just due to not knowing anything else. But the Holy Forest is the major intersection of the world that branches off to every other major path that you will traverse to get around. The world design is definitely one of the game's strongest points. You'll start off by picking one of 3 starting paths, but quickly these paths will lead to some other branching paths, so if you're having trouble getting through one path, you can always try another path. You'll also explore dozens of different locations, everything from wide open deserts to freezing winterlands. You'll also go through some fairy tale locations like Wonderland, and you might even find locations that reignite past traumas that you thought you buried. As you explore, you will find campfires to rest at to help restock your flask and act as a fast travel network, allowing you to easily get around the different areas of the game. The map might not nicely wrap back around like it does in DS1, but it does have that feeling that if you choose the wrong path, you will get railed. It's kind of funny also how many items are similar to the Dark Souls series. You have flasks for healing and mana, you also have the home bone, the return back to campsites that you visited anytime you find yourself in a pinch. I never found exploring to be a pain, and it's more or less encouraged due to these items. Combat in the game is for the most part just your standard RPG. The 2 main things of note for combat is that instead of having a tit-for-tat turn system, this one has a time-based turn system, which means the higher speed stat that you have, the faster you can go again. So if you are fast enough, you can manage to go multiple times before your opponent even gets the opportunity to do anything. I think speed is probably the best stat due to this. The other thing of note is how companions work. Unlike other RPGs where once a character joins your party, you know they actually join the group to participate in combat, your party members decide to be on roll call before they join the battle. It really gives you the feeling that you're using a summoning sign to call on your allies for a boss fight. This changes your strategy because when you're in combat, you have to decide when you will waste a turn to summon someone and who you will summon out that will best help you at this time. Or you can just aura farm them by yourself. You also cannot affect the loadout of your companions, so you will have to work with what they have. While your character doesn't have an armor slot that you can affect, you can change their main weapon like normal and also have the option to equip up to 5 different kinds of rings, which will be your main way of tuning your machine of murder into whatever you want. Leveling up is not done in a traditional way. Like other RPGs, you still need to cull the local population of an area to gain levels, but you don't get XP. You instead get souls that you will trade into Mr. Rabbit here at the Hollow Woods to level up. And don't worry a single hair on your head, because I know you were worried. They did implement the soul drop on death mechanic. So if you didn't cash your souls in, you better hope you can get back there in one piece to get your crap back. Leveling up doesn't allow you to allocate points to your stats like other souls like. Leveling up just kind of boosts everything. The closest thing they have to that is the different color souls you can find off of defeating enemies and buying them off of shops that allow you to put in points into stats that correlate with that color. Which kind of surprised me because I feel like they could have just implemented those souls into the leveling up system to truly give you that freedom of leveling the character how you want. Like leveling up would allow you to choose a set amount of colors souls every time you level up. It's not really a nitpick, I'm just surprised they didn't implement it given that how much everything else is souls like. You can also level up your companions, which is done by feeding them souls, and of course since this is a hentai game, it can't be done in any other way besides doing something ecchi to transfer the souls to them. I don't understand how this works either, because our guy's supposed to be undead. How does his dry, wrinkly ass get a stiffy? That's not how rigor mortis works. Plus, I can only imagine our guy looking like this. Ugh, it's just awful. I hope you like grinding too, because there are a total of 10 different companions you can get. To be fair, you can easily miss half of these guys on your first playthrough unless you are using a guide or something, so it's not too bad. but each companion does get their own ending, which requires you to level up said companion to at least level 100. Each companion needs about 300,000 souls each to get them to around level 100. Now times that by 10, you have to collect up to 3 million souls just for your companions alone. For reference, the final boss drops 100,000 souls, and that's something you can only do one time. So I recommend that you get your best Elmer Fudd impression on and go wabbit hunting in Wonderland. Those suckers drop 10,000 souls each, and that's before modifiers. And they don't fight back, they just want to run away. So I recommend that you go grab these rings located in the crack of this building in the Holy Forest. One of them doubles the soul drop rate. Bump up the difficulty at this shrine to make the game a bit harder, but gives you more souls. Find a good AoE attack, and be really fast to hit them before they can run away. My weapon of choice was the Morgenstern. It is a great solution to this problem. Fully level this weapon up, and it gives you 90% stun chance on a basic auto attack, and makes them AoE. It doesn't feel like 98% against bosses, but I could still stun them. Honestly, the weapon's kind of stupid. I'm surprised it made it through. But tending the rabbits with this setup, I almost got everyone to level 100 in like half an hour. Other reason for leveling up your companion is that they have a couple hentai scenes locked behind leveling them up. One is a bathing scene that takes place at the bottom of the Holy Forest, and another one is located at the Love Hotel called Poseidon's Hotel. Each character also gets an ultimate ability at level 100. You would just have to go get it off a dead body located in Wonderland. Which this really turns some of these characters around, like Victoria, my beloved, buffs my crits chance and also gives my guy 3 different elemental attacks. I was hitting like a freight train. The different companions you can get are an interesting bag of characters. I'm not going to go through them all, but you can get a combination of fairy tales and original NPCs to join your party. Like highlights for me was Red Riding Hood, who was a little too close to her bonded wolf. And there's a pre-sequel game that involves her, which I assume explains that relationship. And you have Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz, who was once a man, now a woman, and has you track down and kill the Lion, Tin Man, and Scarecrow because the fog corrupted them. You even bring back Janae from the dead after she became a charbroiled stick. The art design for these characters I think fits perfectly with this atmosphere of the game. The drawings has this grittiness to them that fits perfectly with the madness of the game. Like, yeah, it looks like someone was given a box of Crayola crayons and was told to go hog wild, but I honestly love it. I just wish it was used more. Like, I would have loved to see how the creative ways certain bosses would have looked in this art style, instead of the generic models that they use for these games. It mainly is used for the party members and all the hentai content of the game, and that's kind of it. This also fits the style of the new fairy tales that are being told, because they aren't your traditional ones that you might be used to. They seem to have been hand-twisted to fit into this world. You have the 3 little pigs and them experimenting on animals until they created a wolf that eventually blew down their house and killed them. Or the golden goose being one that steals from people rather than laying golden eggs, like she's Robin Hood or something. I think the best twisted version of these tales are the 5 evil princesses of the game. I'm not going to go into much spoilers here yet. I'll give my opinion on the story here in a bit. But what I will say is once you make it to the Lost Empire, you will not be able to enter the castle unless you find and either kill or make a pact with the 4 other princesses that rule the land around the empire. One being Ariel, one being Snow White, one is the princess from The Princess and the Frog, and then Rapunzel. Joining their pack usually just requires you to do like one job for them, and once you join, you usually get a ring and an H scene out of it as a reward. This will probably be the majority of your gameplay, of you just trying to go around and find where these princesses are located, as you slowly find more fairy tales and start piecing together that there's something bigger going on. With there being multiple ways for you to address situations depending on the actions you take, you'll find out a ton of different information. But because of this, the game is set up in a way where it really wants you to play through it multiple times to get the full story. A lot of this game comes down to trial and error, and it feels like you'll miss a crap ton of things throughout the game. The best way to highlight this is how you can get some party members recruited. To get Elma, who's supposed to be the little match girl, she runs a store selling matches. Oh, I know, shocker. But she's located in the city of Rottenburg. But once you kill the knight outside of Lost Empire, and remember to check back up on her before you murder all the princesses because she'll turn into a demon if you're too late, you'll get a cutscene where you need to stop her mother from murdering her. I thought this was a cutscene the first time, and I just didn't move, so I just watched her get murdered. Afterwards, she'll run out of the store, and if for some reason you haven't killed the Pied Piper yet, Before all this, who is located in the sewers, he will murder her because he doesn't like children being by themselves, so the logical thing is to do is just to murder them, I guess. Then after all that, you'll find her back at the Holy Forest to comfort her after the loss of her mother, and she will join your team. I would say this is one of the more simpler ones. They are not all like this, but if you're just unaware of any of these types of steps, and you make one wrong move, they're most likely going to be dead, or just not you join your party. You can at least try to save Scum and get the results that you want, but sometimes you might have to go back quite a ways. Speaking of the Pied Piper, a few of the locations have cool little stories attached to them too. Like you'll find out that Pied Piper ended up destroying a town by using his plague rats as chemical bioweapons, which is you will eventually see the results of. It was also so much fun just going through and finding events that the characters brought up and seeing the results of those events, I guess. Honestly, even if the game tells you that you're the star of the play, it doesn't kind of feel like it. You're just watching a story play out most of the time as you're just kind of strung along. Even if you're a blank canvas where you can decide whether or not you're a saint, a monster, or just a bystander for a lot of these situations, your decisions might not even be able to change what happens, but just delay the inevitable. Early on, you might stumble onto a bread trail. Me not knowing any better, I started picking them up like they were pieces of candy, only to find out at the end of the trail, there were demonic forms of Hansel and Gretel waiting there to kill me. I found out that I shouldn't have taken the bread, because if you don't touch the bread, the twins don't end up turning into monsters immediately. And you get a short little questline with them. Even with that questline, I could either get them to turn into monsters again, stand by and do nothing and they still get killed, or try and help them and they still end up being killed. It has this nihilistic feeling like Berserk, like no matter what you do, everything will go to shit anyways. But even though it is like this, a lot of the events still feel like it's worth seeing all the results that you can get from them. I think at the end of the day, this is a story that you will get out as much as you put into it, which is why I kind of hesitate on doing a full-on breakdown of the story, because I probably missed a ton of things still. Compared to my last RPG review, which was Laura of Lagetsu, with that game taking twice as long to complete compared to Black Souls, with this game taking about 10 hours on my first playthrough, but I spent many more just trying to get answers for my questions, and I didn't even try to attempt that with lore, I just rage quit from that one. Like how FromSoft tells their stories in worlds, it's not really told to you, you kinda need to go out and find it. Which means you're gonna get pieces in a non-linear fashion, and you will have to fill out story pieces at random as you just go along. It's not as bad as you needing to read item descriptions to understand things, but if you don't fully explore the game, you're probably going to be scratching your head by the different outcomes of the endings. They can kind of be a bit confusing and a little bit out of nowhere. From now though, I will be going over my thoughts of the story, so if you don't want any spoilers, then jump to the timestamp on screen here. This is going to be my golden goose of an example that I will point to from now on as to how to tell a basic story and allowing your plot to develop into a crazy ass mess. With these kind of hentai RPGs, I swear to God, half of the time they always have to put some crazy ass weird twist halfway through to try and lengthen their plot or just make the game unique, because I can't think of any other reason why you would take your core idea and throw it out the fucking window. I always feel like they muddy their idea that they had, and you just get lost in a weird acid trip vision that they had to spice up the game. Where in Black Souls does a great job to give you those breadcrumbs that lead you to a bigger overall plot while not getting too far away from their initial vision of what the game is, which is a world you are thrown into where you're trying to figure out who you are and what the hell is going on. You always will have this feeling that someone else is pulling at the strings of this story, never straight up revealing their hand, and that's kind of what the endings are for. It teases you nicely into trying to figure out what is really going on. Starting out, you might think that Cinderella is the one generating the fog because she didn't want her dream to end. Then you'll find traces of a person named Mary Sue who seems to have a cult attached to them and seems to have their hand in a bit of everything, manipulating people. You have Alice from the beginning somehow setting up a clone that's telling you to go around collecting the fairy tales to complete her library. And by looking for new fairy tales, the multiple outcomes you're given from your actions and just exploring to find out how your companions fit in this world, you slowly go from thinking you understand what's going on to looking back and getting new interpretations on what characters were saying. If you want, you can just do the normal route, like going to Lost Empire, finding out that you need to kill 4 other princesses around the map to open the main door, go and do that, just to go in to kill the big bad at the end and call it a day. But you'll be missing out on all the different endings. There are a total of 4 major kind of endings in the game. One being a waifu that you pick after you beat Cinderella and touch the fog on her throne, and choosing the girl of your choice who has at least 100 levels to them. Each of these are roughly the same, with Protag-kun kind of starting a new life with said character after beating the final princess. This also seems to have 2 versions to them, a good and a bad one. I never figured out why I would get one or the other, but with the bad ones, they're just extended versions of the good endings, but something tragic happens to the waifu of your choice. Like for Goose's ending, you both end up having a child together and you guys are trying to find work, but one day she does return home, and when you go looking for her, you find her dead and you proceed to murder your own child because she started laughing. Or for Catherine's ending, you will end up being her new guard after the last 2 kick the bucket, just to wake up one day to find the church sacrificing her and summoning a tentacle god. These are not bad, but they are very shallow and never built up throughout the game. I kind of wish there was more scenes or things to do with the companions to have these have more payoff. I also felt like some companions got more attention than others, like Dorothy. You have the whole follower quest, Toto's grave scene, a cult of witches that she used to be a part of, and a couple other scenes. Well, Janae kind of just got reincarnated and helps you save Catherine, and that's kind of it. I feel like I most likely missed stuff with some characters, which wouldn't surprise me. If you think about it, this ending itself has 20 outcomes to it, just for the individual party members alone. Another major ending is if you are able to get all 10 party members together and touch the fog at the end by yourself. This one has you and the party members throwing a celebration back at the Holy Forest, but it's probably the best ending with you going around talking to everyone and just having a good time. But it seems that this one might have been a dream because midway through the party you black out and wake back up in the Holy Forest before the Cinderella fight. The most interesting ending are the last 2, which change the whole dynamic of the story. Like I said before, as you go through the game, you'll start finding things that don't quite line up as they seem, or something bigger is going on. Like constantly finding evidence that this whole world is just a play being orchestrated by someone named Mary Sue. Their name pops up numerous times throughout the game, starting off by some offhand comments from some cult worshippers, to even the princesses themselves realizing they were being manipulated into trying to corrupt other people by her, which comes ahead in the last 2 endings. For the 3rd ending, you will need to go through the whole game and collect all the fairy tales to complete Alice's library. Fairy tales drop from killing NPCs related to the tale, so these will include people in your party too. So if you decided to save everyone and got them to level 100, let me recommend that you just take them on a date to Poseidon's Hotel to get their book, because that was a surefire way to make me feel like a scumbag. But once you collect everyone's book, a switch will appear, and it seems that Alice somehow had a really extreme failsafe in which once you pull this lever, the world will start collapsing. You will start making your way through the collapsing Holy Forest until you make it to the end where you will meet Mary Sue. Which it is revealed that Leaf was Mary Sue, and she is a god who was tired of listening to people's complaints. So she decided to rewrite the whole world into her favorite story, while putting a twist on her favorite fairy tales to make them fit in your world. Apparently Protag-kun's real name is Grimm, and he was the author of the world we just went through. And damn, my money was on Miyazaki, a Miura. Sue rewrote the world itself just to have fun and put the authors as the protagonists just because she admired him so much. Mary Sue said that she's been waiting for this moment, kind of implying that all the endings we've been through so far was just you going through an endless cycle over and over again. This ends up with you fighting Mary Sue alone since you had to murder everyone else to get here, so you will eventually fall in battle just to hear a voice from Alice telling you to get up and finish the tale. Once you beat her during round 2, you will kill Mary Sue, and your creations will come back to life as it seems now that you're a god of your own story. Now on to the last ending, which deals with the leader of the Black Trials. This ending's kinda cool because it's kind of a contrast to the 3rd ending. Where the 3rd ending doesn't care how you go about collecting the books, this ending requires you to have committed no sins, because this ending you need to work with the leader of the Black Trials, who is known as Black Judge Bahamut. She will fight you if you haven't committed any sins. Good that you can go down to your local priest and make a donation to absolve your sins. She will ask you to go around and kill different sinners like Pinocchio, Clock Rock, and even the rabbit that has been leveling us up the whole time. Your reward for doing all this is getting to marry the hairy gorilla and you get a hentai scene with her. She will then ask you if she can enter the Holy Forest as a refugee because she's being hunted. It's kind of a crappy excuse because she's borderline a god, and she doesn't need protection, but saying yes allows her to teleport away and trash the Holy Forest, where you confront her in the basement attacking Leaf. As you were helping Bahamut, she was going on about wanting to meet her darling again, but she was unable to do so being trapped here. She was unable to enter the Holy Forest until you allowed her to enter, and she's very tired of playing in her daughter's, which is Mary Sue's, little play, which you'll have the option to defend Leaf and fight Bahamut to the tune of Carol of the Bells. I don't know why, but it was just so funny hearing that when the boss fight started. Once you beat her, she will beg for her life, but Leaf will turn her into a bloody paste, then turn around and kill all the other party members and ask to be together with you forever. Right then, you'll start hearing clapping as Alice comes walking out of the void. Leaf starts having a panic attack at seeing her as the screen fades into black. I love both of these endings. Alice's library ending is a nice way to reveal who Mary Sue is and why Leaf is so adamant the whole game just to have fun, because that's what she wants from her world. It's also kind of hinted at, in my opinion, that you might still be stuck in the loop, but it's your choice this time. I also love how your companions show up at the end, like I just didn't murder half of them to get here, but as God, he can do that. With Bahamut's ending, you have more of an open book ending, leaving you on a cliffhanger, and I'm assuming this is what breaks the cycle. Bahamut is interesting. I feel like I miss why she's here, but I do know that she's Mary Sue's mother, and it seems like she came in late to the play. But now she wants out by either killing her own daughter or even trying to get her daughter's own power. She couldn't do that because of the barrier Mary Sue put up around the Holy Forest. This also ends on a cliffhanger, having Alice come back for some reason. She's also madly in love with Grimm, it seems. I don't remember finding out much about Alice while playing, so I'm assuming that she's going to be more of a prominent character in Black Souls 2. We'll find out about her story then, I'm assuming. All I really know about her is that she really likes to help Grimm, but what her goals are besides trying to stop Mary Sue, I don't know. I hope my rambling got across my general feelings for this story. It's kind of hard to fully break this one down without going on for like an hour. I don't want these videos to be like that. I love the way that how everything was built up, which led to a good payoff. I feel like they knew what their story was supposed to be, and they didn't pull any punches. I would give this game a 9 out of 10 crustaceans. I usually try to weigh my scale on these games on the gameplay, the story, and the hentai evenly. And if I was doing that this time, it would be more of a 7 out of 10 probably, just due to the hentai not being good. But the gameplay and the story were really great. Honestly, it has the same charm to me as something like Monster Girl Quest. God, I don't think that is the right word to use, but I'm just gonna roll with it. The world, the characters, the Crayola drawn models really bring me back to the first time I played that masterpiece. Something at first glance that seems like a simple experience with a shallow gimmick slowly ballooned into something I couldn't even imagine. Whether that be a plethora of different choices that you're given that affect random aspects of the game, to small little things like having characters having unique dialogue depending on the enemy you call them out against, all help build up the world and flesh out their vision for their dark fantasy that really struck home to me. Even though the game takes the whole framework of the Souls series, they get it to work and make the gameplay separate itself enough to make it a very unique experience. Like how Dark Souls take concepts from Berserk, so does this game take concepts from Dark Souls and make its own evolution of that. If you can't stomach the idea of that and give the game a try because of that, I want you to go eat a fence post for being a stick in the mud. At least say that you don't like the dark twisted hentai, which is probably my only real complaint about the game, is that the hentai is just a dud for me. Like how they integrated it with the story is fine, but since there are 10 characters and each of them only get a few scenes, with most of those kind of being a repeat, and the poorly implemented love system, AIE level system I guess, to get the couple of hentai scenes with them just kind of feels half-ass. And I would have loved to get more cutscenes like the one with Goose teaching Oma math and stuff like that rather than the nothing we got. The music of the game is really good for the most part, and I'm pretty sure some of these songs were just ripped directly out of Dark Souls boss fights. Overall, it's a good game and an hentai game. And with that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next debauchery.